So before this video really starts to begin, I have to do this. Give me 1 second. What's up guys, I'm back and I'm driving my Ford Escape again. It has been 1 year since I have owned this car. I got this back in mid-October of 2016 at the time of me filming this. It is now early November 2017, so a little bit over a year. So what has it been like driving this car? Driving this car has definitely been really fun. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, what I like, what I don't like, what I've done to it, what has already been done to it. If you haven't seen my first video on this car, I would recommend going back and checking that out. I'm going to leave a link in the description. I'll also throw a card somewhere up here. So this is a 2005 Ford Escape. It was originally an XLT. It's kind of been nicknamed an SVT, quote unquote. It has a 3-liter dual overhead cam V6, all aluminum block, aluminum heads. On top, it has a Canyon Bell 2-liter supercharger, twin screw style, and this has a 4-speed automatic. This is also a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and is what at the time Ford called an intelligent 4-wheel drive. What that means is that if the front tires start to spin, the rear tires will engage, and then boom, it's kind of like an automatic 4-wheel drive. It's supposed to take away the idea of button selection, and I don't know, it's kind of weird. I really don't like it, but it's whatever. Now, because of the supercharger, I run on 93 octane just so that the motor runs a little bit happier. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more about this vehicle, I'll leave 2 links in the description. One is going to be to a build list from an old forum post that the original owner made, and the other one is going to be to my wheel well count. And my wheel well count is going to have a few additional items as well as some additional pictures if you want to check those out. So by far the most common question that I get asked when I take this to car shows is how much horsepower this makes, and every time I say I have no idea. And that's mostly because I really don't have any idea. This car has never been on a dyno, so horsepower numbers and torque numbers are up in the air, really. It was estimated that this thing makes 300 horsepower, 300 pound-feet of torque, you know, give or take, but it's just that an estimate. I can't put my finger down on a single specific number and say it makes this much horsepower. But the first few times I took it to the car shows, I just left it there in the parking lot, and I didn't even open the hood or anything, and not many people knew what it was. They would just kind of figure it's like, you know, just a standard Escape, that just happens to be there. So at one point I opened the hood at a car show and I just kind of left it there, and a few minutes later I looked back and I saw a lot of people started to crowd around. And we're like, wow, this is kind of weird. This is definitely different, and it is definitely not something you see every day. But over this 1 year, a lot's changed, but not as much as I would have liked. I actually use this car as a delivery vehicle for my job. I deliver pizzas, which sounds weird to be delivering pizzas in a supercharged Escape, because this is definitely not the most economical vehicle ever. So I took this on a trip to Chicago with some of my friends, and from where I am to Chicago, it's 120, 130 miles, give or take. And this has, I think, a 16.5 gallon tank I read somewhere. I'm just gonna round that down to 16 because I like whole numbers better. During that trip, I used 3/4 of my tank. Just on the way there. Not there and back, just there. So take 120 miles and divide it by 12 and you get 10 miles to the gallon. It's that bad. So at some point this will need to be retuned to get better MPG, because right now it's just tuned to run on 93 octane, and better MPG would definitely make me happier. So the first owner who made the build list called this El Escape. I'm a little bit hesitant to keep that or if I should rename it. Part of it's because like this was his baby and he put more work into this than I have in the past year alone. So I feel like keeping the name Escape would pay like good homage to the original builder. At the same time, El Escape to me sounds, I don't know, a little cheesy. And that's not to bash on it or anything. But, you know, at one point I did think about changing this name, but I just really have no idea what to change it to. Now, what I've noticed is that this car does have a little bit of torque steer. Since this is front wheel until the four-wheel drive kicks in, there's going to be some anyways. It's especially worse in wet conditions. Like, it is pretty bad in wet conditions. It's not uncontrollably bad, but if I try to, like, I've tried flooring this in the rain before, or after it just rained, and it's just like, bleh. Now this thing was definitely not designed for racing. I've never timed its 0 to 60 miles an hour. I've never timed its eighth mile. I've never timed its quarter mile. The closest I've come to racing is a little bit of street racing. Now with this 4-speed, it's hooked up to 377 gears in both differentials in the front and rear, I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, because I'm not 100% sure. I'm 99% sure. So the 377 gears aren't bad. This thing redlines at about 6,000 RPMs, and the speedometer goes up to 120 miles an hour. I think the fastest I've gone in this was 110-ish, give or take. And it got pretty sketchy at 110. It's not that I don't trust the motor, it's that I don't trust the transmission, because these things are kind of known to have like really bad transmissions. So I'm trying my hardest to not blow this one up. Also, while you're driving around and you hit all the bumps you turn, you'll hear like every little bit of plastic like kind of rattle against each other. It's not obnoxiously loud, but if you're just driving and it's quiet, you just hear everything rub against each other. Maybe it's just me. I have invested a lot into this car, not as much as I would have liked to have. Back during spring of 2017, I quit my job and tried to look for another one. And I spent 3 months or so applying to 8 to 10 different places. I honestly lost track, and none of them hired. I had to go back to my old job as driving a delivery driver. So there was a 3-month period where I didn't make any money and couldn't put any finances into this car. But after I had more money in my pocket, I started fixing this thing up. At one point, I melted the inside of the catalytic converters, so we did a full cat delete. So we drilled out the 2 manifold cats and cut out the dun cat, and we put a new flex pipe with a straight pipe back to my MagnaFlow muffler, and it just dumps out the back, which is why it sounds a lot nicer, and I'm so happy that happened. Also, at one point, this thing had leaky valve cover gaskets, so I had to replace the valve cover gaskets. Just recently, I replaced the front driver's side wheel hub assembly because it had a bad wheel bearing, and between trying to get the bearing out, trying to put a press, get a press, and put it back in, whatnot, I was like, screw it, let's just get the whole hub assembly. Started to fix that. So we switched out the KYB shocks and the H&R springs that were on this before. I put in coilovers from BC Racing. So the coilovers are really nice. BC has a really good reputation for making some very fine coilovers, and these are definitely no exception. What did suck is that there was a long build time, because it's not every day someone buys coilovers from BC for a Ford Escape. So I placed the order, and then I had to wait a few days to get it processed, and then I had to wait 2 to 3 weeks for them to build them, and then I had to wait another week for them to ship. So between me placing the order and actually getting my coilover set, it took almost a month. But what's nice is they also send sway bar end links, and then they also sent me some stickers and a t-shirt along with that. I also got rear dampening extenders, so if you do have an Escape, you do plan on getting BC coilovers, you will need those dampening extenders. Otherwise, if you want to change the dampening on your rear shock absorbers, you will have to take out the interior panels, and that is a pain in the butt. Don't go through that, just get the extenders. It will save your life. But with the switch to coilovers, the ride is definitely way harsher than it was with the KYB shocks. Now, I don't plan on slamming this to the ground or anything. That's not the style I'm going for. I'm going for more of a pro touring style, if that makes sense, or if you know what I'm talking about. So bigger wheels and tires, better suspension, bigger brakes, more power. And so far, we're slowly but surely getting there. I think my next big upgrade purchase is going to be either my wheels and tires. I want to run a 18 or 19 inch by with a 255 tire and anywhere between a 45 to a 55 sidewall. I haven't really looked at wheel and tire combinations yet. I've only just looked at wheels, so when that time comes, we'll see. On top of that, I'm planning on getting a brake kit from Power Stop. If you don't know who they are, go check them out. As far as I know, they're the only ones who make an actual kit for this year make and model of Escape. Love that torque. But yeah, like I said, go check out Power Stop. I know they make a brake kit. They have calipers, rotors, and pads. It's like $1,000 or something like that. But from what I hear, they make pretty good brakes. So definitely go check them out. And I've also changed out all the lighting. So I have headlights from Spec D Tuning and tail lights from Spider. The tail lights are just the housings. But the Spec D Tuning headlights are pretty nice for what I paid for them. I only just paid just shy of 200 bucks. And the halos and the LEDs, I think, look really good on it. And then I also got smoked fog lights from Spec D. So with the halos with the black housings and the tinted taillights and the smoked fog lights, I think this thing looks way better. I also got a billet aluminum grille that was been powder coated black off Amazon. I think it really sets the mood or the tone for this car. And overall, I just think the front end looks way better now. Now, after owning this for over a year, there are some certain nitpicky bits that I found that I don't like about the car, definitely. One thing is that since this is a Ford, it carries the reputation of Ford, so I'll have a lot of my car friends like, oh, you get a Ford, when's it gonna break down on you, do you know? It's like, oh, you got an SUV, isn't that just a mom's car? It's like, I just kind of accepted it. It's like, yeah, so what, I drive a Ford, so what, I like SUVs. But more times than not, I get more people telling me how cool the car is and asking me questions about why I decided to drive a supercharged Escape. I just say, you know, it's totally different than anything else you'll see out there on the road, and it's just really fun to drive. I've taken a few friends for ride-alongs in this car, and every single one was like, yeah, dude, this car is really freaking fun. But regarding the Ford reputation that this thing carries with it, it's honestly not that bad of a vehicle. I think the motor is really good, and I know the transmissions have been known to have really bad issues. But besides that, like, this thing has almost no rust except for a little bit on my rear wheel lid. These things have also been known to have kind of bad electrical issues and ignition issues. Thankfully, the guys who owned this before me kind of took care of the majority of that. They replaced the PCM and the spark plugs and the coil packs and the wires. So shout out to those guys for taking care of some of the big issues. It's not totally gone. There have been at least 4 times where I have been driving this and it would just shut off on me while I'm driving. That, like, I mean, the motor just dies and everything just turns off. There's no radio, there's no power steering, no power brakes, and I have to force it to steer, and it gets really scary during those times. And that was also like another kind of issue with these things, and I'm not sure how to go about fixing it. I'm just gonna kind of leave it as it is right now. Also, this model of the Escape didn't have the sunroof, and it didn't have the extra storage in the trunk, which honestly I kind of would have liked to have had. My old Highlander, the trunk had extra storage space in the floorboard, so you could pop open the cover and there's little like plastic storage bins. This one has an option where you can get those, but this one just so happens to not have those on. Also, I don't really like these windows. So for this window right here, it goes down automatically, but it doesn't go up automatically, which always just kind of irks me. It's like, why would Ford make a window motor that can go down automatically but not go up automatically? It just never made sense to me. Also, this is the only window that has any sort of automatic feature. That window doesn't, and these 2 back windows don't at all. There's no automatic feature. Not only that, the 2 rear windows only go down halfway, and I've always hated cars where windows only go down halfway. Also, the rear window nozzle jet thing, I'm not sure what the technical term is even. It's not centered on the trunk lid, and it just throws off my OCDs. Like, I understand that the third brake light is there, but oh my god, the fact that the rear window nozzle jet spray thingy isn't in the center just always gets to me. Not only that, the rear window wiper, I guess that's the technical term, I don't know, that's also not centered, and that part also bugs me. But in terms of overall daily drivability, it's pretty good actually, despite the fact that it gets poor fuel economy. This definitely isn't a luxury vehicle, so the seats and the rest of the interior aren't luxury based, so there's no leather or anything nice. There's no nice bucket seats. There's none of the sort. But still, for just a starting teen, or you're just looking for a good family vehicle to just haul the kids around in, an Escape is a really good option. Now, I have a lot of plans for this car, and with all that, it requires money and that requires time. So I plan on keeping this car for quite some time. Like, I still need to get wheels and tires. I still need to get brakes. I still need to get it retuned. I want to change the bits of the interior. There's no extra gauges except for what came with the original dash, which is temp, speed, tag, and fuel. I need a boost gauge. I need an AFR gauge. I want to change out the head unit. I've already changed out 2 of the speakers. I also want to change the suspension so that my rear can get dropped a little bit lower. So I've made a list of parts and mods that I want to do, and after I made it and I went back and I looked through it, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have so much to do. I've also added a few stickers on the windows, and then I also have this little chain right here. I also got me this little Umbreon as a co-pilot. It's my friend. And I also usually hang this from my rear view mirror, but I felt like it was gonna get in the way of the camera, so I'll left it down for now. This thing has an ashtray, except it's separate, and you're supposed to put it in the cup holders. So, yeah, that's weird, but whatever. What I think is kind of cool is that this has a working cigarette lighter, which I've never had a car that ever had a working cigarette lighter. And that's not to say that I haven't seen cars with cigarette lighters. Like, I know that used to be a big thing during like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, or wherever the have you, when they started becoming a thing. But look, it works. This is the first one where this one actually works.
So at the time of me editing this video, I'm currently working as a delivery driver where I live, and my car is actually broken down. So what happened was our streets were covered in snow. They'd just been plowed. They just laid out the saw, and this is the day after that happened. I actually broke my car down on December 30th, so not exactly the best way to end the year, but what happened was I was driving, and there was I was in the right lane. There's another lane that merges into our right lane in the middle of it's just a basic turn lane, and there was someone on my left. So I accelerated to get around them, and there's a small incline that like a really, really small incline, not like a massive hill or anything. So I accelerated around the person on my left, so I could get into the left lane, so the person in the right lane could merge over. And then I got back into the right lane. As I made my way up this small incline, I got to the top. I let off the gas, and it just kind of started sputtering. I think at the time it was -2, maybe 0 degrees outside. I honestly don't remember, but it was somewhere around that was the forecasted temps. So once I got to the top of the incline, there was a stoplight, like maybe a quarter of a mile from the top of the incline. I started laying off the gas as I approached the stoplight, and it started sputtering. And I start to brake. I'm wondering, well, what's going on? And then it just completely shut down. I lost the engine, shut off. I lost power steering. I lost my power brakes. I couldn't turn it. And then I tried to turn it into a parking lot, but it was angled upwards, so I couldn't. So I was actually stuck in the middle of the intersection. So I just threw on my hazards, and then thankfully the police showed up. I didn't even have to call them. There just happened to be a squad car nearby, and they asked me what was going on. And what happened was I had to call my place of work. I had to get a coworker to come out and try to jump my car. So when we tried to jump my car, because it was just completely dead, like it was starting to turn over, but no juice. We jumped my car, and then two things happened. It didn't want to stay running, and then it was making some god awful noises. And now I'm no mechanic. I am by no means no expert. If I could show you what had happened, or if I could let you listen to the noises this car was making, It was really really awful. I'm not sure if it's the motor. I had to leave and continue taking these deliveries because I already had 2 deliveries on me at the time. So my coworker came pick me up. We had to pull the car over into a small automotive service shop that was right there on the corner, and we just had to leave it there. I ended up calling my parents because they had AAA, and while I was at work, we got the car towed to the local Ford dealership. I have now at the time of me recording this, we haven't gotten a call back from the dealership. It's only been one day later. It hasn't even been a full 24 hours, so we don't even know if they've gone through a full routine check or service or maintenance or anything. I imagine that it's either my motor's just completely shredded or my tranny shot. I do want to mention first and foremost that I am okay. The car most definitely is kaput right now. But I do know that at one point, well, I shouldn't say at one point. I do know that the car has been leaking small amounts of oil out of the gaskets, and then at one point I was getting some blowback, and it actually pushed the dipstick out of its little slot or whatever. So it was blowing oil back up through the dipstick, and so I closed that back up, and I added a little bit of oil back to it just so it would run better, and it would meet the full mark on the dipstick. But I honestly don't know how much oil it lost, so it just kind of only guesstimated. So that's the update on the Escape. I'm really sad that it broke down. I don't know why it broke down. I don't know how it broke down. I don't even know how much it's going to cost. If it's the engine, I might just have to, rip it out and just get a whole new car. Because I just strictly don't have the money for it. If it's the transmission, I don't even have the money for a transmission, but I would probably just have replaced it. It could be a differential, it could be a transfer case. Like I said, we're not sure. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a GoFundMe page. If you don't want to donate, or if you don't feel like you can afford to donate, that's perfectly fine. This is just something I'm trying because right now I don't have the funds to pay for it myself, so my parents would have to help me, and I really don't want them to pay any more than they have to because they've already paid for towing. So if you could spare like even 10 cents or a quarter, I'd be perfectly content with that. But since I don't know how much repairs are going to cost, I don't have a set amount like, oh, I need $1,000, I need $5,000, I need $10,000. I'm just going to set up, I don't know, a really small amount or some sort of basic amount. If you feel like helping me, or if you do help me out, then from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. Like, I understand that if you want to save your money because you have bills, or you have insurance to pay, or if you need to get groceries, or if you need to work on your own project car, I totally understand, because I would rather be working on my own project car too right now, except my project car broke down and it is sitting at the dealership. So if you do help, thank you, and God bless you. I'll leave a link to a GoFundMe page somewhere in the description. And if you want to stay updated on what happens through the Escape, you can also follow me on social media, on my Instagram and my Facebook pages and my Twitter profile. Anyways, I want to thank you all for staying to the end of this video. I want to thank you all for your support, and I will see you guys in the next video. And I'll let you know how the Escape does, and fingers crossed that it stays alive and that I can keep it.
So I think I'm going to end this video here. If you liked it and you want to keep up with the build on this Escape, you can go ahead and click that subscribe button. There's also links to some of my social media pages down below in the description. You can click on those. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Try to keep up. Ow. If you have a really cool build, leave a comment down below. Tell me about it. Like, I'm always interested in learning about other people's special builds. And if you happen to be another Escape owner and you have some questions for me, leave those down in the comments too. I'm always open to questions. And on that note, I'm going to see you bronies later. I'll catch you in the next video.